I once heard a man talking about priorities, and the way that he illustrated priorities was by comparing what we do with our lives now, knowing how our lives are, versus if we knew we only had a month to live. How would our priorities change? And as we tick down to the end of that month, how strongly would our priorities change? I mean, would we go into work? Would we be doing all the mundane and trivial things that we think are so important right now? Well, I find it very interesting as Jesus was nearing the last few hours of his life, he was involved in an activity that we would almost think, why are you doing that? It seems so trivial. It seems so unimportant. And yet Jesus would demonstrate to us through this act that it was extremely important and should not go undone. As Jesus is eating that final meal with his disciples in John chapter 13, we read that he washes the disciples' feet. In fact, in verse 6, it says that he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said, "Lord, are you washing my feet?" Even Peter couldn't figure it out. Now, the disciples, being in that upper room, should have already taken care of this. Washing feet was usually something that was left to a servant, or the guests should have taken care of themselves, but none of the apostles did. I don't know exactly why, but Jesus took care of it, not simply to wash their feet, but to illustrate a point. And as Peter goes on and Jesus responds to him, we learn that Peter says, "You don't need to wash my feet." And Jesus says, "Well, what I'm doing now you don't understand, but in time to come you will understand." And so Peter says, well, just give me a bath, basically. Jesus was trying to illustrate a spiritual truth. The spiritual truth that will eventually come out in this chapter and throughout the application the rest of time of service to others, regardless of the circumstances. Why, just a few hours before Jesus died, was he doing something so mundane and trivial? Well, that's because it was not mundane. It was not trivial. It was who he is. Let's be like him.